Coming up, what an excellent day for a beautiful friendship. All right, this is Humphrey Bogart. Coming up, sweetheart, what an excellent day for a beautiful friendship. And just one more. I'm sounding like Peter Falk now. Coming up, what an excellent day for a beautiful friendship. Yeah, now Edward G. Robinson. Let's just get all of them in there.
I'm Chief Wiggum, see?
Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to Minute 129 of The Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Father Dyer saying no to Kinderman's question, "Had you lunch?"
And then ends with Jason Miller's credit card.
Not his credit card, but the card containing his credit.
Which we are allowed to read on the air.
Yes, and we will with compound interest. This joke is so stupid. Is this how we're going to go out?
That's how we came in, baby.
I seem to recall us being smarter once upon a time.
Sounds like a fairy tale to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But be not afraid, listeners, for today we bring you tidings of great joy. For behold, another podcast shall be born, and it shall be called Every Minute of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And we hope you will follow us into that multiverse of madness, mothers, metaphysics, and meaning.
Right, and at about the same time as that one is going to be launching, we will also be doing our other show, which instead of going minute by minute through a particular movie, we're going to be going character by character through the Disney canon, and that show is called Every Disney Villain, and we've already put some of those recordings in the can, and I'm really happy with it. Can't wait to share it with you.
Yes, folks, we are expanding our empire. We even have a name now. From this moment on, we are officially Bananas for Scale. That's the name under which all of the Lester and Keenan podcasts will be found. We got the idea, of course, from our Paradise Lost episodes, which that's another announcement. I think we alluded to it on the show, but once we have aired the last Exorcist Minute episode, all of the History of the Devil bonus episodes will be removed from the feed to be resurrected. The devil doesn't get resurrected. What does he get?
He gets regained.
Oh, regained. Okay, yeah, to get regained as a new and separate podcast in the Bananas for Scale empire.
Right. So to be clear, these that we're moving over will be the bonus episodes from the Exorcist Minute, covering our discussions of the devil as he appears in the Bible, influences from other religions and cultures, Baphomet and the Knights Templar, the Testament of Solomon.
Hey.
Dante's Inferno, Paradise Lost, and Paradise Regained.
Yes, so that's about 30 episodes so far, and the plan is to redistribute them. They'll come out once a week, and by the time we get back up to the end of Paradise Regained, we will have new episodes ready. I think we're looking at the story of Faust next, and we'll be looking at both the play by Christopher Marlowe, one of Shakespeare's contemporaries, and also the drama by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I think we're going to cover them at the same time rather than separately because we have so much devil stuff we want to cover. We want to get to the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. We want to talk Mark Twain, the devil and Tom Walker, the devil and Daniel Webster, the devil and, this guy and that guy and all the other guys, right? And eventually we want to get to modern day and talk films. Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, End of Days, Constantine. I feel like there's something else. We're missing something. There was another movie about the devil in the early 70s, had a huge impact on culture and faith. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's at the tip of my extra long pea soup stained prosthetic tongue. I'm sure I'll remember it. And we'll probably do a short episode on that one as well. I think we got it. And then just imagine, Keenan, they get to that episode, which will come out sometime in 2034.
Right.
And of course, we plug the shit out of this podcast. And first time listeners find this podcast, The Exorcist Minute, and they get to this episode where I'm basically revealing that that was the plan all along. Listener in 2034, if that's you, if we got you that way, I think that deserves a 5-star review, don't you? Don't you, Bill? And if your name is Bill or Billy or William or Will, my God, man, the universe is calling to you. Lay those 5 stars on us because you are the chosen one. Welcome, Bill. Glad to have you in here with us.
Yeah, Bill or Billy or Mac or Buddy.
Yeah, right? Well, just throw Mac in there too. Yeah. All right. But anyway, let's get back to the task at hand. We got about 13 seconds of this film. So let's get back to the top here. We're still on Kinderman's face, but the craggy, curmudgeon exterior has cracked, and we see him smile. Makes me remember his scene with Karis, right? Smiles are so rare in this movie, and when we see them, it's like the sun poking out from behind a cloud.
Yeah, I hate them. I hate those.
He puts his arm through Dyer's and he leads him away up 36th Street. And I checked the map, and if I had to guess, I'd say they're probably heading towards the Tombs. Remember, that's the restaurant / bar that we had Dimmy and Father Tom Birmingham in, right? When with the famous scene, right, where Dimmy says, "I think I've lost my faith, Tom." As Kinderman and Dyer cross the street, we hear 2 things almost simultaneously, but the first is the Adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. Remember, folks, way back in episode 1, way back in minute 1, we talked about how it's the first human voice we hear in the film, and the first words spoken in the film, those words being, "God is the greatest." And now here it is again to close out our movie. And alongside it, of course, we also hear the haunting beginning of Tubular Bells, now inseparable from this movie. I believe the theatrical cut only had Tubular Bells, which gives you a much more evil is still out there, so be careful, right, feeling to the ending.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I actually like better. How about you, Keenan? Like, I know you don't like the extra Kinderman stuff, but I'm just talking about the music. Like, if we had to keep the Kinderman stuff, but we had the choice to do this mix of the Adhan and Tubular Bells, or just Tubular Bells as they walk away, what would you choose?
Well, I like having the Adhan here at the end because it gives that kind of symmetry, just from like a symmetrical standpoint, with the
Yeah.
all the way back in the beginning of the film, right?
Yeah.
So I like that part of it. I don't know if we said this also similarly in the minute 1 of our show, right? I'm not sure still if it really, it's a beautiful message. It's the God is the greatest. It's a prayer, right? But we don't really hear all of the prayer. So if we're not familiar with Islam or speak Arabic or have been exposed to this before, I don't know if we catch that it is, a prayer or something beautiful. I think, the way that we are in America, like, I don't know, I think to a typical American audience member that doesn't have you there to translate this for me, right?
Typical like white Christian, audience member.
It just gets into the xenophobic, Islamophobic part of American culture, right?
Yeah,
it's just like,
unfortunately.
Yeah. So I don't know if it has that. So it still sounds like scary music to us, I think.
Yeah, and like. And you almost wonder if that's what Billy was going for,
right?
And yeah, folks, like, again, as much as we have tried on this show to kind of stamp out Islamophobia and and talk about this wonderful religion, which is like a cousin to the other Abrahamic religions. I think just kind of the xenophobia still exists.
As a movie from 50 years ago,
even 50 years ago, but even today, right?
Yeah. But yeah, the movie starts in the prologue with this interfaith friendship, right?
Yeah.
Between Marin and our friend Jesuit Dean, who's really the curator of the Museum of Antiquities. Yeah, and it's going to end here with an Irish Catholic Jesuit and a Jewish policeman, right?
Yeah. Right?
And they're going to become friends and inspire the sequel book.
Yeah. You almost wonder, like I mean, with the sequel book, like they know each other longer than Kinderman had, opportunity to know Demi. So it's
Right.
like they become even closer.
Right, and then in the book, which we'll talk about in Legion, the
Hmm.
sequel book, right?
Right.
They still find ways to keep Damien at the center of their relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but they actually, yeah, that's a good point. They'll end up knowing each other much longer than Kinderman got to know Damien.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as the Adon,
Hmm.
your final verdict is
Yeah, if it's there at the beginning, it should be there at the end.
interesting.
And then,
Okay.
yeah, I like the idea of, okay, these things might sound scary and foreign, right? But then
Hmm.
when you interpret that and you think about the movie and you look these things up, you're like, oh, it's actually like a message of hope
Yeah.
and peace and love, and that's interesting. Yeah.
Hmm. It's so hard for me to say, like people ask me, it's like
Hmm.
about my favorite books all the time,
Uh-huh.
right? Being an English teacher, and I've said to a lot of like weird reactions, like, yeah, Exorcist, it like to me feels like a feel good book, because it like it gives you this ending of hope. It's like
Hmm.
it's like evil does lose, right?
Right. Hmm.
Love does win out. But
Hmm.
it's so hard. Like, yeah, walk up to somebody and say, like The Exorcist makes you feel all mushy inside, and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's like it's like with pea soup and
Right.
and
Yeah.
stuff in there,
Yeah.
right?
And we know everything we need to know about you now.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, and then they just kind of like, they pretend they see somebody else at the party. It's like, oh, there's Bill, yeah, because everybody else is
Everyone
Bill,
else
right?
is Bill. All right.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
just walk away, right? But it's funny, but what I'm trying to say is, I think we're on opposite sides of the fence now, because like
Mhm.
I kind of like the just tubular bells ending,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it is this because it's the difference between that happy ending versus
Mhm.
that hopeful ending, right?
Right.
And I like the tubular bells being like, okay, you're safe for now. You got out of this mess, but
Mhm.
Captain Howdy's still out there, the devil's still out there, right? These people are safe, but are you?
Yeah, and so that music cue in the original, in the theatrical version,
Hmm.
happens over Dyer, right?
Right? Yeah, there is
And
no
he
Kinderman.
is
Yeah,
alone. There is no Kinderman there, so maybe that helps with that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's this like I have to kind of grapple with this,
Hmm.
and like all you got to do is hop on over to the second book, to
Hmm.
Legion, and you find out it's like, oh, they do become friends, right?
Right.
But we don't see it. It's
Hmm.
like we get to wonder about the fate of Dyer, right? His
Right.
like how his soul is going to take this, as we exit the original theatrical cut.
Right. So we don't hear any of the remainder of their dialogue here, right?
Oh yeah, you're talking about the
In
TVYNS,
TVYNS, right?
right?
So the ending of TVYNS is word for word with Blatty's dialogue from the book, right?
Right. Yes.
Except for when they are finally crossing the street here, and we have Kinderman talking about Casablanca, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not there, but they did shoot it. And
Oh.
Friedkin in the TVYNS documentary is explaining his choices, so that he wanted to put that back in there,
Hmm.
but they're shooting on this busy street and they don't have the audio clean, and they've
Right.
lost the audio. And because they weren't going to use those shots
Hmm.
in the theatrical version. They don't have Lee J. Cobb doing ADR, and he's
Right.
since passed away and everything, right? So
Right.
they don't have the audio, so that's why we end up with everything being like letter perfect
Hmm.
from the book, and then all of a sudden it isn't.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So we have a the ending of our movie ending up with the formation of a beautiful friendship, right?
Uh-huh. Right.
And it starts to look a little bit like Casablanca in its own
Hmm.
Friedkin-y Exorcist sort of way, right? It's
Right.
behind them as they are going off sort of into the sunset, right? Or the
Hmm. Hmm.
sunrise in Casablanca, like Louis and
Yeah.
Rick. But we also have a shot of this big window that Damien fell out of, right? In that same
Right.
shot. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about that, not having the very ending of the movie, the very ending of
Hmm.
the book in the dialogue here?
I think I'm thankful for that happy accident.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I think if they did it exactly like Casablanca,
Uh-huh.
like if they did, you know, um, less of an like this feels like a slight nod as
Uh-huh.
opposed to like an extreme wink, right?
And a nudge through the screen.
Right. It's like, yeah. No, I prefer this, right? Like it just makes me think of like the ending you're describing makes me think of that thing I mentioned before on our Devil show where
Mm.
like, in Stephen King's, homage to Dracula, right? Salem's Lot, right?
Oh, right. Mhm.
He literally has one character turn to another and it's like, oh, did that old man who helped us remind you of somebody?
Mhm.
And the character passes a hand over his face and says, yes, Van Helsing.
Mhm.
It's like, no, come on, King.
Oh, Lester, why are you so hard on Stevie King?
I know, right? He is, folks. He is my hero. I
Mhm.
like top row of my bookshelf is lined with all his books
Right.
at my office. Right? He taught me how to write.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. I'm like Job
Oh.
talking about God. Right. There we go.
After decades and decades of suffering
Yeah.
under Stephen King. Where were you when I laid the foundations for Carrie?
Right. Exactly.
For needful things.
Right. Where were you when I made the Shawshank Redemption,
Mhm.
which is actually called Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption?
Oh, yeah. In
Right.
the short story. Yeah. Yeah. Long titles.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
We forgive you, Steve.
Yes.
That's so dumb.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault,
It's not your
Steven.
Yeah. Yeah. Who am I kidding? Like, it's like
No,
I
it's
ain't
Stephen
Stephen.
King.
Yeah. I don't have his body of work. I don't have.
No.
Yeah. Stephen King can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like Van Helsing.
Well, he's like that writer character in that new King book. Yeah. It stars a writer, right? Oh, which King book are you talking about? Are you talking about The Shining? Oh no. I'm talking about it. Oh, because I thought you were talking about Bag of Bones. Oh no. I'm talking about Salem's Lot. Oh, because I could have sworn you were talking about Misery. Oh no. I'm talking about. Oh no. I was talking about the Dark Tower. Was it? Oh, who's the writer in that one? Well, you'll just have to see. Okay, so Kinderman and Dyer are walking up the street. The music is playing. Life is resuming. We got a cyclist that almost hits them. It looks like. We got a lady walking her dog, and at the 13-second mark, we fade to black. And then the music changes to Fantasia for strings. Very jarring, very abrupt, very nice, very evil. As the title of the movie appears in bright red letters amidst the blackness.
Yeah, I love the abruptness of that, even with this happy ending stuff and the sort of Casablanca thing and all of that. I love just how abrupt it is.
Right. It just does like, this is not Casablanca. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know? So it never happened, luckily. But so Casablanca, right? They're going off, and what's her name is left. Ilsa is left with Victor Laszlo, and
right.
and
then Death appears and was like, I was looking for you in Casablanca, where. Oh yeah, I've seen that movie. Yeah.
Death is on the plane with Ilsa, right?
Yeah.
So it never happened, but it was such a and then Rick and Louis have started the whole movie together. They're basically, but they're not. They don't like each other. Like, they like each other, but they're on opposite sides, right? Because Louis is a collaborating French officer, et cetera.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways, it's such a great ending, obviously, and the movie becomes such a hit, and it's one of those really boring stories in film history because, like, as soon as it came out, everyone loved it. It was a hit. It won all the. Everyone was like, "This is one of the best movies ever." Like, there's no like people discovering it or anything like that. It was always it was always Casablanca.
Yeah, it was almost never like erased from time. Or,
right. Boring.
Yeah,
but yeah, like it was so popular, and they started thinking about doing a sequel. to
Hmm.
Casablanca with Rick and Louis in the Congo. Because they mentioned that, like, oh, with these winnings that I have, or because I bet you that I bet you that Victor Lazo wouldn't get to leave Casablanca
Uh-huh.
with my 10,000 francs. We can go and start ourselves on this journey down in Brazzaville. And so they were going to
Huh.
do a sequel to Casablanca called Brazzaville. That would have been who knows what the hell that would have been.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we didn't get that sequel to Casablanca, but we do get our sequel to The Exorcist with these
Right.
two friends going off and doing whatever they're going to do in Legion.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think like, so they're going to go off and they're going to have like their own, book and their own movie, and they get to know each other even better. Like Kinderman gets to know Dyer better than he had known Dimmy
Oh, by
because of the
far.
time that
Yeah, yeah,
passes,
yeah.
right?
In the movie, they've only met once.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They really liked each other. In the book, they meet more than that, right? But
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's and then in the Legion book, right? That's
Uh
not
huh.
quite in the movie Exorcist 3. They sort of bond over this loss that we talked about between Chris and Dyer, where they've shared this loss with each other.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But that becomes the linchpin of their relationship. And then even when they even when they've all moved on, they don't grieve like every day for Damien. Like that is one
Right.
of the reasons why they make excuses to see each other, is to
Right.
console each other over the grief of Damien.
Yeah, and I love that. That's such a cute moment.
Hmm.
It's like near the beginning, folks. It's like because each of them are talking to somebody. I think Kinderman's talking
Hmm.
to one of his underlings at the police station,
Hmm.
and Dyer's talking to I think another priest, and both of them say it's like, oh yeah, I gotta go. I can't. Be with you today. I got, it's that day again,
Right.
right? And the other was like, oh, what day? It's like, oh, every year on this day, Kinderman gets a little sad. I got to cheer him up, right?
Right.
That's what
Hmm.
Dyer says, and then and then Kinderman says the same thing. It's like, oh, every
Hmm.
every year around this day, Dyer gets a little sad. I got to cheer him up.
Right.
I love that sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Lester, they go on to have a beautiful friendship.
yeah.
Like the title of this episode.
Oh,
Did that remind you of anything?
that was completely unintentional. I Folks, I mean, oh wait, what is this dead horse here that I just tripped over?
Well, I think you
And
better
these
beat it.
with this baseball bat.
Uh-huh. Well, how could you tell it's a baseball bat?
Well, it's conveniently labeled baseball bat
For beating horses.
for beating horses. Yeah. So yeah. So we got our title, right. The Exorcist.
Right.
And then that disappears, and our first credit is to our good buddy, director, visionary, beloved psychopath,
Hmm.
William Billy Friedkin.
Hmm.
It's so weird doing this now. We've come all the way around,
Yeah.
and now I'm seeing his name again in the credits. Last time I saw it was September 29th of 2022. Back in our very first episode, and oh boy, folks, if you want to hear some rough sound quality from two chuckleheads who had no idea what the hell they were doing,
Mhm.
maybe you don't. Maybe don't go back to that episode. But yeah, like I feel like this curtain call is going to be oddly bittersweet as we go through these names, which have such a different meaning attached
Mhm.
to them for us now. And I know, we talked a little bit about them as each of them made their entrance in the movie,
Uh-huh.
and I thought maybe we could do like a little retrospective on each of them. Maybe recommend something else of theirs that the listeners might like. Keenan, what do we think of Billy now that we've gotten to know him intimately through this film? And is there anything of his that you would recommend our listeners definitely go check out?
Yeah, because it's the time to do it, and then we'll get through the credits on this minute, and then we'll read some last minute questions here from our
Yeah.
listeners. Yeah, so I always knew Friedkin was a good director, and now I'm looking at
Mm.
like just individual shots, how seamless they are, just
Mm.
how well put together they are. I love
Mhm.
that we did this as a comparative lit podcast, so you can read
Yeah.
to us blatty, and then we can really look at like what a director does with a screenplay.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think we would have been able to see uh, how much Billy did if we didn't like see the original source material, you know,
Right.
the novel and the screenplay.
And even just with some of the same lines of dialogue that
Yeah.
are in both the book and the screenplay, right? That's what a director does, is work with the actors
Mm,
to draw on the subtext, and then also deal with things like pacing and tone and mood and all of that, you know,
right.
in addition to the things that we typically associate with directors, like camera work and editing
Right.
and design, production design, and
Yeah.
costume design and all that. Yeah. So I have a much bigger appreciation for him now. I don't think I'll be able to look at another Friedkin movie without thinking about, you know, how he operates in The Exorcist. Because I have not
Mm,
seen The French Connection, his other movie that should be, if you're looking for Friedkin movies, that should be the next one in any of your lists. That's a
mm.
major motion picture. I have not seen that in a
Yeah, that
long
got him
time.
the Oscar. Yeah.
That got him that Oscar that he could make fun of Hitchcock
Yeah.
for.
Right.
Yeah, who never got an Oscar.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah, but some things to look for. We've talked about The French Connection, Cruising,
hmm.
Sorcerer. He did some really interesting adaptations of plays at the beginning of his career, mostly comedies. But one we
Mm-hmm.
haven't talked about is this one called The Boys in the Band, which was,
Right.
yeah, like one of the first like gay mainstream studio movies based on the
Mm,
play, great play by Mark Crawley,
right.
that I love. That's just mean spirited and funny. It's a lot like it's a lot like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but with gay men.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's just like best friends, and they, you know, because they're best friends, they know how to dig into each other and say the meanest, most awful things to each other. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. And then near the end of his career, he also got back into directing really interesting adaptations of plays,
Mm,
especially two by Tracy Letts. One called Bug, which is this really
mm.
contained movie in a motel room with three characters, one of whom is Michael Shannon in his like really first big breakout
Oh.
movie, and then the other one is Killer Joe, a criminally
Mm.
underseen movie, because they gave it an NC-17 rating despite having no nudity that I remember, or if it
Yeah.
is, it's not really, you know, that crazy. It's not like pornographic or anything, but it
Right.
is a
Right.
shocking movie. But yeah, it's really really good directing. So, you know,
Mm.
he, like a lot of directors who lasted 50 years, you know,
Yeah.
he went through periods where he was directing masterpieces, and then periods where he was directing movies that were not appreciated or just bad. You know, that's just the nature of having a career that long, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he has really super interesting movies in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So
Ah, well, thank you, Keenan. Yeah, I gotta check out those others. I like the next one on my list is the French Connection.
mhm,
But yeah, for me, yeah, I did not know anything about Billy Friedkin before this podcast,
right.
other than the fact that he directed The Exorcist.
Mhm.
Certainly was a roller coaster. Learning about him as we went, right? Coming to appreciate his vision, his dedication to the craft, his innovation,
Mhm.
and also learning how far he was willing to go and what he put his actors through
Mhm.
for a scene or a shot, right? His relationship with Blatty, and then learning about his passing. All that stuff has given me a whole new perspective on our fearless director. For me, I actually want to recommend his autobiography, The
Mm.
William Friedkin Connection.
Hmm.
I'm reading it now. I highly recommend it. You can listen to the audiobook version read by him on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show
I hope
notes.
there's a lot of F words in that.
You know what? I should have kept a tally.
And
Yeah,
then, just in case you're listening to our podcast out of order, which some people do, right?
yeah.
We should mention, yeah, our criticisms of Friedkin's directing style, especially dealing with actors and stunts, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and so that's interesting as we've been looking at this and just seeing how far we've come in so many ways, or at least, you know, and how we
Mm-hmm.
talk about stunts and intimacy and all that. Like Hollywood and other movie productions don't always live up to that ideal, right? But like
Right,
how we would not allow Friedkin to do some of the things he did today, if he were
right.
making this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that we personally would not want anyone to make a
No,
movie
no,
that
no,
way.
and we do not recommend. No,
Right.
no, 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 no. Yeah. Um,
Hope that covered our asses real good here at the end
yeah,
here.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We gotta pile on enough love for Billy, but then we also we gotta get enough padding for our own asses.
All right.
Yeah,
Let's see
right.
here. Protect our asses. Check. beat
Yes.
dead horse.
Yes.
Check.
Yeah. We're on the witness stand. It's like, so you appreciate Billy Friedkin's style.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You might
Yeah.
say you examine, extrapolate, and excavate his movies.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, would you tie a string to an actress's back and yank her across the room?
No, I would never do it.
Answer the question.
I would never do it. No.
Okay. So our next big name here is our good buddy. I feel like they're all our good buddies now. William Bill Peter Blatty. For me, he's the reason I got the idea to do this podcast.
Right.
It was originally going to be a show just covering the book, and I am so glad we didn't do that. There's so much stuff we wouldn't have been able to explore that way. But I feel like I got to give Blatty his due. His writing, his words were what first possessed me to do the show. And for him, you'd think I'd recommend another of his books. But listeners, confession time. I have a bunch of his books with bookmarks at the halfway or 3/4 mark, and they've been that way for years, and not for lack of trying. I have revisited them. I am 3/4 of the way through my 3rd attempt at Legion,
Oh wow.
which is a tiny book. It is so small. The audiobook is 8 hours and 42 minutes. You could finish it in a weekend, in a day. I have 30 minutes left on the goddamn thing. I promise. I will be done with it by next week because, well, our bonus episode requires that I be done with it by next week, since we're going to cover The Exorcist 3. But for whatever reason, it's always been kind of a hard read for me. Maybe because, I always attempt it right after The Exorcist. Maybe the flavors are just too different, right? I appreciate Kinderman's schmaltz so much in The Exorcist, right? It's the marshmallow, it's the crunchberry, and a little bit of that is really nice. And then Legion is like, oops, all Kinderman, which oddly enough, the movie doesn't have that problem because George C. Scott is like the embodiment of Bran cereal.
Bran.
Yeah.
Today you're eating Bran and you're gonna like it.
So him being in it makes it a balanced breakfast, with black coffee and a cigarette.
I'm not gonna ask again.
I can't wait for us to do that one.
Well, I can't wait for every Disney villain when he shows up as a Disney villain.
As McLeach, yeah. But no, so instead of recommending another book of Blatty, I'm gonna go a different way. I recommended a book for Billy, and I'm gonna recommend a movie for Bill. Folks, if you haven't seen it, grant yourself this treat and see The Ninth Configuration, written, directed, and featuring, in a small role, Bill Blatty. This is pure, unfiltered Bill Blatty with all the straps pulled out. It is super schmaltzy and saccharine and silly and sad, and the exact opposite of The Exorcist, even though it features Jason Miller, our beloved Dimmy, Stacy Keach, who was gonna be Dimmy, Ed Flanders, who plays Father Dyer in Exorcist 3, a reference to lemon drops, and a callback to Chris's quote about how the devil's always doing commercials, spoken by the very same astronaut character to whom Reagan had said, "You're going to die up there," so long ago. He's played by a different guy, but Blatty has said that is the astronaut in this movie.
Right.
But despite all these Exorcist connections, it's more like Blatty's version of Catch-22. It's like this great comedic dialogue, very clever, but also very cheesy and schmaltzy. I highly recommend it if you have not seen it.
And some terrifying imagery as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it is very funny and silly. And Jason Miller's character is a Shakespearean director for dogs, and you'll have to just see that to see what that's about.
My favorite.
Yeah. But yeah, and then also some haunting imagery that I can't get out of my mind.
Yeah. Okay, folks, and the next name that pops up is Noel Marshall.
Hmm.
He was our executive producer for this film. Keenan, yeah, I think you're gonna have to take this one. I know next to nothing about our buddy Noel Marshall.
Well, I was trying to find his relationship to our film, and mostly it is because he was Blatty's agent, his Hollywood agent.
Ah,
So, executive producer is a credit that kind of doesn't really mean anything in particular. There's a bunch of
hmm,
reasons why people get executive producer credits.
okay,
And that even goes up to today. Like sometimes you get one for you're making a movie at Bananas for Scale. It says that we
yeah,
hire some producers, and they go out and make the movie, but they're
hmm,
working for us, and they wouldn't have been able to make the movie without us because we had whatever. And so even if we didn't work a single day on their movie, they might credit us as executive
executive producer.
producers,
Ah,
Lester,
okay.
Ryan Clark, and Keenan Diaz, right? So,
Hmm,
so we don't know beyond that he was Blatty's agent. I don't see what he's worked on with the film.
hmm.
He becomes his most famous thing though is his relationship with his second wife Tippi Hedren,
Oh,
the star of The Birds.
right, right, right.
Yeah, and they end up making a crazy independent movie called Roar, which stars
Right.
Tippi Hedren, her daughter Melanie Griffith, right? And it's this insane movie. Have you seen that?
Hmm. I've seen bits of it, like when I was doing research. Like, yeah, there's a scene where a lioness is
Hmm.
like quote unquote playing with a little kid, like a
Yeah,
human little kid,
yeah. Hmm.
and like like a cat would. But imagine this cat is lioness sized.
Yeah, so they used real lions, and part of their Hedron and Marshall's deal was that they loved animals, and it was like this pro animal movie, but it's also a horror movie about like
Mm,
getting stuck out in Zimbabwe, I believe, and
mm.
they're out there, and yeah, getting it's like Cujo but with lions, and them being just surrounded by them, and tons
That's
and
a that's a great pitch. That is short and sweet, and you don't need to say anything else. You're just in the elevator. It's like it's Cujo with lions.
Right. And they're like,
Jesus Christ.
"What's Cujo? That hasn't been invented yet." And
Oh
we'll
yeah,
be like, "Oh, it's like Roar but with dogs."
yeah. Well, let this other guy over here, Stephen King. He'll tell you about it. Yeah.
But there were just so many injuries. So the report I saw was that there was, um, the movie just shot forever and ever. It was like a 2 year
Mm-hmm.
long shoot, and there were
Mm-hmm.
48 injuries
Jesus.
amongst their whatever 150-person crew, etc. So just awful amount of yeah, maulings and near maulings and
Oh
all this
my
stuff.
God.
And it's again,
Were
it's
any of those injuries not involving the lions?
no, no, I don't believe so.
It's like, did somebody accidentally slam their finger in a door?
Right, and
Just please tell
it
me there
gets
was like
counted.
someone got a paper cut or something.
Yeah, and so one of the really serious injuries was Jan de Bont, who became a director later on of like Twister.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, the director of Twister. So he was a cinematographer, and like he got um what I read was he got scalped.
Oh,
So I
Jesus.
don't quite know what that means because I only hear about scalping corpses.
Right.
Yeah, but he was scalped by a lion
I
apparently.
think I think it means exactly what it sounds like. I
Except he
think,
lived. I don't understand. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, like the lion thought that, he was wearing a wig, and turns out he wasn't.
Oh, how terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the movie is most famous for its excessive injuries, which is not what
Mm,
you want to be remembered, I suppose. But then that is what Noel Marshall is best known for, is
mm.
this terrible production that he designs around his wife and his stepdaughter, Tippi Hedren
Jesus.
and Melanie Griffith, with
Oy,
lions,
oy.
real lions.
This cat exploitation film.
Yeah, so that was probably Melanie Griffith you saw being, playing with and clearly real lions, clearly no nets or like glass walls separating them.
Right.
Like, yeah,
This
they're
wasn't an animated lion. This wasn't a
right. And
claymation.
physical connection in shots. Yeah, yeah, like over and over and over again with
Like
lions.
physical
Yeah.
connection with like the most dangerous parts of the lion.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
So
Oy, oy,
just
oy.
just madness. That's Neil Marshall for you.
There you go. Right. Yeah. Movie about the devil. That wasn't freaky enough. We
Yeah,
gotta.
exactly. Yeah, when you Google him, the thing that comes up first is Roar, and then it's like, oh, and he also he also made The Exorcist.
I love that. It's like, oh yeah, and this is the Exorcist too. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so next we got folks. We got hashtag our Chris.
Hmm.
We got Ellen Burstyn. Keenan, what can we say about Ellen Burstyn in this movie? Can we imagine anybody else? Can we imagine Shirley MacLaine doing a better job? Remember, folks, that was who Blatty based this character on.
That'd be so interesting. I mean, I'm not going to talk any smack about Shirley MacLaine, who is
Mm,
the best.
mm, mm,
But
mm.
oh, but Ellen Burstyn is so perfect for this, right? I can't
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
anybody else.
Mm,
Yeah, and she is still working, and she's
mm-hmm.
still delivering good performances.
Shirley MacLaine or
Oh well,
Ellen
both
Burstyn?
of them. Ellen
Well, yeah,
Burstyn is
yeah.
working more often than Shirley MacLaine, but
Yeah.
like Ellen Burstyn is in Interstellar, so still making
Yeah.
major Chris Nolan movies, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and she was in one of the seasons of House of Cards, so
Yeah.
she's still been working, and of course he was in Believer, of course,
Oh, I don't remember that.
yeah.
She was
Something
I
must
don't.
have
In fact, I don't remember seeing that movie
you
at
didn't?
all.
What's something
Actually,
wrong with your eyes?
no. I you know what? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Mm.
imagine the other
I
versions
see
of
what you
Shirley
did there.
MacLaine.
Oh no,
Well,
wait, no, I don't.
and then yes, if you are discovering Ellen Burstyn because of The Exorcist, I
Mm.
would say that her very very best performance is in Requiem for a Dream by Darren
Mm.
Aronofsky that you just have to
Yeah.
see, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the beginning of her career, as an older lady, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of Hollywood actors, she has kind of a fallow period when she turns like really middle aged, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a lack of roles for women in their 50s and 60s, right? But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, she really hits it out of the park with Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
Doesn't win an Oscar. That wasn't her year, right? Julia
Mm-hmm.
Roberts wins for Aaron Brockovich, which was going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But then there were also reports of Academy voters who put in the DVD or the tape. I can't remember where we were at that point, and were
Mm.
so horrified that they didn't finish watching the movie, and they would just freely tell people that, like, "Oh,
Oh
I
wow.
couldn't finish that Ellen Burstyn movie, so I couldn't vote
Dang.
for it." Yeah.
You couldn't wait. The movie with Ellen Burstyn
Mhm.
was so scary that you couldn't finish it. My friend, that was years ago. What are you talking about?
That's right. Oh, but these are older voters at this point, and then
Right.
yeah, and like but in the Ellen Burstyn movie, her son doesn't visit, and that's just
Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. But folks, this is hashtag my Chris. I can't imagine anyone else. I
Mhm.
think Ellen Burstyn has managed to bring out those parts of Chris that we want to see. The movie star aspect is downplayed to the point, like we said, that people kind of forget about it.
Mhm.
And that's how it should be. This isn't Shirley MacLaine dealing with Shirley MacLaine problems. This is a mom who happens to be a movie star dealing with stuff that's very primal, very
Mhm.
relatable. The fact that her daughter is changing, is slipping away from her.
Mhm.
That's one angle. It's the whole, daughter growing up and becoming a different person
Mhm.
thing. But then also her daughter is sick and possibly dying, and that is portrayed beautifully by Ellen Burstyn. And for her,
Mhm.
I'm going to recommend Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, it almost feels like a continuation of this story, right? She's a mom on the road
Mhm.
going from place to place with her kid, just, replace the kid that she's got with Reagan. And there you go.
Mhm.
With Harvey Keitel as Howard.
That's right.
And next up, we got Max von Sydow.
Mhm.
Once again, I cannot imagine anyone else doing this role. He is the Exorcist. How about you, Keenan?
Right. And it's just so interesting, right? How similar he looks to his old man age when he does
I
get
love it.
old. Yeah, yeah, because
Love it. Love it.
he's only in his 40s here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about his Bergman movies, which I think,
mm-hmm.
yeah, those are definitely where you should be looking. The Seventh Seal, yeah,
Yes.
that's probably the big one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Just a fantastic performance there, and his fantastic relationship with Ingmar Bergman.
mm-hmm.
I would also recommend his work in Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters,
Mm.
which is an ensemble movie, and he's in this smaller part. He's the older boyfriend of one of the sisters, played by Barbara Hershey,
Mm-hmm.
and they have had this life where there's unusual couple, He's an intellectual. Again, he's much older. He's decades older than her. She's a free spirit,
Mm,
but it's at the end of their relationship, and she's like, I think I need to be with someone, like my own age and in my
yeah.
own interests. And she says, like, being with you keeps me isolated from real life, and like we just stay in this loft and talk about philosophy, which is what you would want to do with Max von Sydow, right?
Right. Right.
And then he like finally shows some emotion in all this, and he's like, you are my entire link to the outside world,
Oh,
so just for that, don't break up with me. And she has to decide,
right.
like, well, is that the worth staying in this relationship where I'm not getting anything out of it,
Right.
like feeling so important to this one person. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, I cannot imagine anyone else doing Father Marin.
Mm-hmm.
He is hashtag my Father Marin. And yeah, we've talked about how, amongst our cast, he is the standout. He is the acting legend come to grace this movie with his presence.
Mm-hmm.
He's as renowned as an actor as Marin is as a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I second Keenan. Go out and watch any of his collaborations with Ingmar Bergman. You absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen The Seventh Seal, but
Uh-huh.
I want to see more.
Yeah.
But today I'm going to recommend something that I had no idea about until this week.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, see him in Extremely Loud and Incredibly
Yeah.
Close,
Mm-hmm.
where not only is it a treat to see that he has perfectly aged to look exactly like the Marin makeup that he's wearing in this
That's
film,
right.
but his role is completely silent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see the great Max von Sydow steal the scene right out from everyone without saying a goddamn word,
Mm-hmm.
see Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Yeah. Yeah. Good movie.
Mm. All right, next we got Lee J. Cobb, our schmaltzy Detective Kinderman. Very different from George C. Scott's portrayal
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
Exorcist 3. What do we think of him?
Well, one of the greats, right? Like, he is the
Mm.
originator of Willie Loman on Death of a Salesman on the original Broadway
Yes.
run.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about his role in 12 Angry Men a little bit.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
also, if you don't know, On the Waterfront, which is one of the handful of great American movies,
Yeah.
with Marlon Brando's performance, he
Right.
is the
So
bad
I could have
guy.
been somebody.
That's
I
right.
could have been a contender. Yeah.
Exactly. You're very good at Brando, by the way.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So he's the bad guy, Johnny Friendly. Lee J. Cobb is. So yeah,
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
is one of his most famous performances.
Yeah. 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 Folks, he is who I imagine when I read The Exorcist, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is Detective Kinderman. I think Book Kinderman is a little bit schmaltzier,
Yeah.
but I think Lee J. Cobb is a perfect fit for this movie.
Mhm.
I gotta admit, I haven't seen any other Lee J. Cobb stuff
Mhm.
other than On the Waterfront, but I was
Mhm.
watching it for Brando.
Right. Mhm.
Um, but I got my eye on 12 Angry Men.
Mhm.
Nobody take that out of context. And Death of a Salesman,
Mhm.
which is on YouTube in its entirety, starring him as Willie Loman.
Oh.
I'd say watch both of those and see how Lee J. Cobb can adapt his acting style for both the stage and the screen.
Right.
See how different it is, right? Because the YouTube version of Salesman is it's a filmed stage
Right,
version.
right,
You
right.
know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's doing the stage actor thing.
Yeah.
So watch him do the stage actor thing, and then watch him in 12 Angry Men do
Right.
the camera actor thing.
Right.
But yeah, next we got Kitty Wynn. What do we think? What do we think of Sharon?
I just love Sharon. I think Kitty Wynn
Yeah.
is so good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I haven't seen her in a whole lot. We'll have to take a look at
Mm.
her in The Exorcist 2 again as we're taking a look
Yes.
at that. But yeah, Panic at Needle Park with Al Pacino in her. That's her
Yes.
very first movie, and yeah,
Yeah.
something that you should all see.
Yeah. Again, absolutely perfect. A perfect foil to Ellen Burstyn's
Hmm.
Chris. Perfect
Hmm.
employee, but also kind of like second daughter or oldest daughter, right?
Hmm.
And same with her relationship with Reagan. Perfect nanny slash teacher slash big sister.
Right.
I think she plays both angles well. Yeah, she works for the McNeils, but she's also part of the family,
Right.
and she's also her own person, right? She's got her own stuff going on, right?
Hmm.
Great performance.
Yep.
I watched Panic in Needle Park
Yep.
a long time ago, but again, same thing. I watched it for Pacino,
Uh huh.
so I want to go back and watch it for her.
Yeah, and she
Right?
won the Best Actress at Cannes for that. So
Aha! There you go. Yeah. So yeah, Panic in Needle Park, folks.
Mhm.
Yeah, check that out. And next we got hi Burke.
Hi, Burke.
Oh yeah, we got Jack McGowan.
Mhm.
What do we think? What do we think of McGowan here?
He's so great at being just so annoying.
Mm,
Yeah, he's so
yeah.
wonderful in this movie, and yeah, really versatile. Again, like the movie I would recommend, we did talk about that a little briefly, is
Mm,
him in Roman Polanski's Cul-de-sac, which has
right.
him as he's one of the bad guys. He's like this gang member, but this is where he's stuck. He's wounded from a bank heist, and he's stuck
Yeah.
in the back seat of a car that's being eaten by the tide, and you just
Duh.
the movie kind of just forgets about him as they're doing their crazy comedic, very very blatty in ninth configuration sort of
Uh-huh.
stuff, like this weird stuff up on the hill, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
cut back to McGowan in the backseat of the car, and the water's getting higher on him. He's just
Oh
like,
no.
oh.
All right, I got to see that. Yeah, yeah. Again, he is my Burke. He is who I
Mm-hmm.
picture when I read the book. And his performance here is wonderful. And of course, I absolutely must recommend seeing him as the fool
Mm-hmm.
to Paul Scofield's King Lear. Remember, folks, that was Carl's alibi. It was why he wasn't home on the night Burke was murdered.
Right.
He had gone to see Paul Scofield in the movie version of King Lear, which just happens to also star Jack McGowan as the fool.
Right.
So he was with Burke on that night. But really, if you see a version of King Lear, actually see the James Earl Jones version. But if you see another version of King Lear, see the Jack McGowan version, also, I guess, called the Paul Scofield version. Whatever,
Right.
Judge Danforth.
Right.
I know who you really are. Do you know what he did? Watch The Crucible for Scofield, and watch Scofield's Lear for McGowan.
All right.
Yeah. And last but not least in this minute, Dimmy. It's our own Jason Miller. I love how I'm now just taking ownership of these characters and these actors.
They're ours.
As if the movie could not survive without this like to all our beloved actors, Jason, Ellen, Jack, Maxie, you're welcome. And Bill and Billy, you crazy kids. That'll do, Bills. That'll do. Now, what am I doing? I've gone from kissing this movie's feet to patting its head and messing up its hair. Jesus. But no, Keenan, Jason Miller, Stacy Keach. What do we think?
I don't think I would have believed Stacy, who's also, I don't want to say anything about Stacy Keach either. Great actor. No, but I don't know if I would have believed Stacy Keach being so vulnerable, at least in the other roles where he's been there. Like, I don't see him that way. Like, he's the lead in ninth configuration. His vulnerability just works a different way than Jason Miller's, is how I should say that. Yeah. So yeah, Jason Miller is just, again, perfect for this. Can't imagine it any other way. Yeah.
And I think I forgot to say, so Stacy Keach was set to be the Father Karras of this movie.
Yeah.
And that very last minute, Friedkin decided to get Jason Miller in there. Yeah, and thank God. But yeah, again, I can't imagine anyone else doing this. There's a humor and a humanity to our Dimmy, played by Jason Miller. He is the perfect old soul with tortured eyes, born in Queens and then grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's rocky. He smokes. He drinks and chums around, but he's also that lonely black rain cloud.
Yeah,
right? It's a perfect mixture. Yeah. And folks, I feel like I'm cheating here, but if you want to see Dimmy in a completely different role, again, see the ninth configuration. He is one of the patients, like Keenan said, right? And his thing is trying to adapt the works of Shakespeare for dogs, and he has got some brilliant scenes. Definitely check it out. And yeah, if you want to see something written and directed by him, see the film adaptation of his Pulitzer Prize-winning play, That Championship Season, which also has Stacy Keach. Stacy, it's starting to look suspicious how you're just hanging around Jason Miller all the time. What's going on here? Hey, you didn't know it, folks, but he's actually one of the extras in The Exorcist, and he's like, oh, is this the scene where Jason Miller falls down those stairs? Maybe I could get up there at the top of those stairs and help him out a little bit. maybe I could. Hey, can I just take a look at this at these this half inch of rubber and just make sure it's it's properly distributed.
Right. Let me
Yeah.
look at these guns you've been firing next to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, one last thing that it would be he has a smaller role in the movie Rudy, Jason Miller does, right, as one of the
Right.
coaches. So, again,
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
playing into his athletic form and athletic sort of visage.
Yeah, yeah. That's the one starring Abdiel.
Hmm.
Um,
What? Say that again.
I said
Mhm.
I can't tell if you're laughing because you got it or because you
No,
didn't
because
get
I
it.
didn't get it.
That's the one
Rudy stars an
starring
angel.
Abdiel.
Oh, because he's Samwise Gamgee. Yes,
Yes.
he's Sean Astin. Of course, of course, of
Right.
course.
Abdiel in our Paradise Lost is
Yes.
played by Sean Astin. Yes. But yeah, folks, that is all of the credits for this minute. And
Mhm.
remember, we promised you this was also going to be our mailbag episode. So now we're going to take a look at some of the messages people wrote in. We're looking at the listener group, and we also got some comments on Discord from our friend Andy, who has so graciously welcomed us into the True Story FM family.
Mhm.
And of course, we got our inbox at theexorcistminute@gmail.com. So where do we want to start?
I'd like to start on one from our Facebook group because it's sort of about near the end of our movie.
Okay,
So
yeah.
this is from our buddy Alex Bloodshow, who we had on as a guest. He's the writer of
Mm.
Dandelion, the novel from a Protestant standpoint of possession. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So his question is, would Dyer be in a position to know an exorcism was going on? I can't recall if you ever discussed that. I think that's a really interesting question, right? And we were just starting to
Yeah.
broach that in our minutes as well. Like, would Father Dyer know about this? Like, he seems to be the most popular man on Georgetown's campus, right?
Right, right,
He can go into the president's office, steal a bottle of gin, and that's all
right.
okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or correct me on my alcohol, whatever that was, the
Chivas Regal,
Chivas
yeah.
Regal. I don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Whiskey? I don't know. Yeah.
Sure, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
we're just telling on ourselves. Yeah.
But anyways, he's able to steal that, and he seems to be like everybody's best friend. So like, but like, is Demi allowed to talk to him about this? Is Tom allowed to talk
Right.
to him about this?
Yeah.
His, I guess we don't really know what his job is at Georgetown and where he is in the hierarchy.
Right. Yeah, that is a good question,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I figured he was similar to Dimmy, like he's being a priest and he's conducting mass,
Hmm.
but then he's also I imagine like a teacher,
So yeah, I just
you
imagine
know?
him being the theater teacher that William O'Malley was
Yeah.
in real life.
Exactly. Like
Hmm.
that's the thing that I defaulted to
Right. Hmm.
is that yeah he's probably being the theater teacher, right?
Yeah.
And like you say, like he's probably like like everybody brightens up when when Father Dyer
Yeah.
walks down that hall with his with his jacket slung over his back and his like Snoopy t-shirt. It's like, hey, Father Dyer's here,
It's a Lemon Drop Kid.
yeah, right. Lemon drop kid. um and yeah, I imagine he knows what's going on. It's like, hey, Dyer, did you hear? Your buddy Dimmy is doing an exorcism.
What's an exorcism? Nothing. What's
Hey,
an exorcism with you? No.
no, Bill, we're trying to, your friend Dimmy. He's like, he's in it real bad. He's like, it's real serious. Like, we gotta stop this joking for just a second and talk about like the implications and the ramifications and all that. Like, what do you got to say about that, Bill?
Nothing. What's the motto with you?
And that's when they realize it's like, oh, he's forever Timon. Like,
I apologize. Your friend has been Timoned.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Alex is follow up to that because he was asking about this when we were saying, like, what does Reagan remember of all of this, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
the tagline for The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, is literally, it's 4 years later. What does she remember?
But but Keenan,
Mhm.
Chris said it in this movie.
Is gonna believe
She
Chris?
doesn't remember any of it.
Just believe Chris.
She's in Believer. I mean, that's what it is. It's believe apostrophe ER. Believer.
That's right.
Yeah, folks. What does she remember?
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, so to answer that question, that Alex Bledsoe posed us, yeah, he must be aware of it. That must be why he was so quick to the scene when, after Dimmy fell, right?
Yeah, maybe. Uh-huh. And
Because
then it's not addressed in the movie anywhere, but Kinderman and Dyer call each other by name, implying that they've met before. Well, implying that they met before, but like when have they met before? Do they know each other because they both work in Georgetown, that general
right,
area, or have they met because of Damien's funeral specifically?
right, yeah. Interesting. All right, and we got a couple other messages in our listener group. First one is from Silas, and I love this. He says, glad y'all work in movies because listening to you do math on episode 125 was frightening.
Oh, but that was all an illusion. That was
Yeah,
all us doing it for
it was
show.
part of our
It's our
shtick,
little
yeah.
shtick there.
It was our character, yeah. And that was like what, episode 125? That was like
That was we're on 129 now.
So it's
Well, let me check. I'll put in the calendar.
Yeah,
129.
129. Carry the 2.
That was 4 or 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5 episodes ago. Yeah. Right. But he says, honestly, thank you so much for putting this podcast together. I'm a late Exorcist bloomer and only saw it about a year ago in theaters for the 50th anniversary showing. Again, I'm so jealous. My good friend. I'm just going to say my good friend. Yeah. My good friend invited me to come along with her and her family, and I'm really glad I didn't flake. I searched around for a movie review podcast when I got home, figuring they'd cover some of the juicy stuff about it in one episode or so. Silas, one episode. But I stumbled across your show instead, and now that I'm 125 episodes in, I can say for certain that I am so glad I didn't find what I was looking for, and that joining in on your conversations a few times a week really makes me feel so connected and engaged in a world that is constantly advertising the devil. Oh, I love that he put that in there. That's great. Keenan, and he ends it with fuck, marry, kill, Lamashtu, Pazuzu, the Horseman.
You have yours?
I do not have an answer prepared for this. No.
I would marry the Horseman for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he's long-term relationship material.
Yeah.
So, I bet Lamashtu would be a pretty good fuck. I think she's been around to be around.
Oh yeah,
I think she's been around to be around, and yeah, I bet she could show you a couple things from ancient Mesopotamia. Yeah, I just don't get that vibe from Pazuzu. I think that he just wouldn't like it. All be fun, which fun is fun.
Fun is fun,
right? But it would just all be fun. I don't think he could really commit to the bit even for an evening.
Yeah, he's so flighty.
Yeah,
right? Like he's like the southwest wind. He's just like he's just on to the next thing.
Yeah. Would he be there present with you in that moment? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could you really be in there with him? in a relationship,
right? Or even for an evening.
Yeah, and yet, like honestly, like he doesn't even know who he is. Like
that's right.
He asks, he's like, "I am no one," right? He's hanging out with a bunch of priests in this like Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic situation, and like what really, he's got to go back to his roots. He's got to go back to ancient Mesopotamia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not just a demon. He's a demon god, right? Own it, Pazuzu. Come on. All right. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're both killing Pazuzu.
All right. Yeah. So who are you gonna marry?
Oh God.
Who are you gonna kill?
This is kind of boring. I think my answer is the exact same because I want,
I think there's only one answer. Yeah.
Yeah, the Horseman. I think the relationship. Oh, I already used the stable relationship joke. I can't do that
Hey,
again.
it's the end. You can go back to it. Do it again, of course.
Hey is for horses. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think a nice stable relationship with the horseman, and yeah, no, Keenan, you're absolutely right. I think Lamashtu could show me a thing or two or three.
You're right.
Yeah.
Great game, Silas. I love that.
Yes. No. Thank you so much. And folks, you can play at home too.
The Exorcist Minute board game.
Yeah. I love it. I love that. Okay, that was awesome. So yeah, thank you, Silas. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening. And thank you for listening.
And thank you for asking Lester about his workout routine.
What's that? Oh yeah, right.
Lester's pretending he didn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, and thank you. Yeah. Oh God, no, you made me like I completely forgot. Yeah, I gotta message him about that. I forgot. I'm so bad about saying I'm gonna do stuff and not doing stuff.
And then it's on the record. It's on the show.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, but yeah, I'll get that. I'll get that out. Yeah, I promise. Okay, and next we got Berto, and he says, thank you guys so much for the great research and comedy throughout the podcast. Like I've said, this movie scared the hell out of me, and never watched it until this year after reading the book for the first time. Lester and Keenan, you two helped me get over my fear of this movie. While watching the movie, I would get scared, but would think back on the minutes you two did, and it put me at ease. At the end of the movie, I was thinking, man, this is a wonderful movie. Oh, yeah. I will say my favorite minute you guys did was the crucifixion scene.
Oh.
All caps, not because I liked the scene. I think that's the problem is all of us, we gotta like put that all caps caption.
Right.
It's like, not because of that. Yeah. So just to be clear, folks, right? Not because he liked the scene, but because of Lester's impression of Gilbert Godfrey. Yeah. Why did I do Gilbert Godfrey in that scene?
We needed it.
It's inseparable. Yeah, we did. That was like, we didn't, there was nothing else we could do. Right. He says, you two are wonderful, and I will say if I had the opportunity to be taught by you guys, it would be an honor.
Aww.
Lester's already the coolest teacher ever in my books, and don't think I forgot about you, Keenan.
Oh, thanks, Berto. That's so nice.
Yeah. You two are hilarious together, and your chemistry is wonderful. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you very much, Berto. All right, and I think that's everything in our listener group, so let's move on.
Lester, I'm going to insist that you read Berto's very nice PS here.
It is a very nice PS. Okay.
I insist.
All right. P.S. I looked at your website, Lester, and holy shit, you are swole as fuck. I love the thirst trap.
The thirst? I haven't been to your website, even though...
Keenan, I'm a thirst trap. This is the first time I've been called a thirst trap. Look at this.
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah, let me look at your... What do you got
you've
here?
Never,
I've never been
I don't
to
think
your
he's
website.
Seen, folks, he's never been to my website.
Oh, these old... I've seen these. Yes, Lester is swole AF. And then he does his modeling. I don't understand how models know how to twist the body in these ways to show these things off. Yeah.
Oh, that's how you hide the pot belly. Yeah.
All right, so that's everyone can find you at LesterRyanClark.com.
Yes. Yep.
And so even the monsters with the face makeup, that's you as well.
Oh yeah. That's that was my Dracula shoot.
It's quite a gamut here.
Yeah, you could, and if any of you are casting directors or agents, or casting directors or agents, I am desperately. I mean, I would love to collaborate with you and talk about how we can benefit each other.
Yes, you'll consider them.
Yeah. I'll let you know. I'll have my people call your people. Right.
We must have mentioned that you're swole on the podcast before. I think that must have come up at some point.
I mean, like, Keenan, do they know that I work out? I don't know if I've mentioned that. No, But thank you so much, Berto. Thank you very much.
Yeah, oh,
It
nice.
always makes me feel good. Because I came from, and Keenan
Mhm.
remembers me. I was, like 250
Mhm.
pounds when I was in, what was it, high school?
Oh, probably, yeah, yeah. Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was pretty. It's a pretty big change,
Mhm.
and uh,
You worked hard for what you wanted, and you did it, and it took for many,
yeah,
many years, and yeah.
yeah. So it is something that I feel all warm and fuzzy whenever somebody calls it out.
Right,
So
mhm,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've
Um.
I've gained the weight that Lester lost, so don't worry, it's still around on our Bananas for Scale podcast.
Yeah. That was the trade. I was like,
That was the voodoo doll.
no, Keenan, you look wonderful.
Oh, I didn't say I look wonderful. I just said I gained a
Oh,
lot of weight.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
Of course,
no,
It was,
of course.
ah. Okay. Yeah. So that's all the listener group messages. So let's open up our little inbox,
Mhm.
Exorcist Minute at gmail.com. And we got someone. Oh yeah. We got someone who prefers to be called listener.
Mhm.
But we know who this is. And they say, just an observation.
Mm.
As a baby boomer generation,
Mhm.
we saw this in our tender teens
Mhm.
and early adulthood. Like, where were you when? Is something we all remember about this book and movie.
Mm.
And of course, the scariest part of this entertainment was based on true event, quote unquote, based on true events.
Mhm.
Definitely a classic. And of course, Team Book.
Mhm.
So this person is
Oh.
Team Book, right? Signed, an avid listener.
Mhm. Mhm.
Thanks, Mom. Um,
Our most avid listener.
yes. And yeah, this is this is my mom. She was like, I can write in, like, and you can just just refer to me as listener, and then you have more emails. And I was like, well, no, she was being really, really nice.
Oh, that's so
And
nice.
but she was like, oh, but you don't have to mention that it's your mom. And I was like, no, I'm gonna mention it. This is
No,
my
no,
mom.
we love her. Yeah,
My mom loves me, everybody.
yeah.
I love my mom. Yeah. But
No,
yeah,
but
no,
that's really great. Yeah, hearing like everyone remembers when they first encountered the movie when they were
yeah.
from that generation. Yeah.
Keenan, do you remember like where were you when when this I think we talked about this like on the first episode, but
I have no recollection of when I saw it the first time, but I do remember seeing TVYNS the second time I'd seen the movie and being like, "What?"
so that was when the disillusionment set in.
Right,
Yeah.
DVD disillusionment.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, for me, I think it was that time when mom and dad were watching it. They had brought it home from Blockbuster. It was in the living room. It was the family room, the family TV, and I was not allowed to see it because I was like 7, 8, 9, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I snuck in and I managed to see right when her head got turned around. And,
Oh yeah, jeez.
and she was speaking in someone's voice, right? We find out later it's
Mm-hmm.
Burke's, but like I was like, what? That's not a little girl's voice. Right? Yeah. Yep, scarred me, and probably the reason I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mrs. Clark, for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. All right, and next we got our buddy Daniel. Daniel,
the whole time.
I have to do it that way every time I say his name. But yeah, so he says, thank you, Lester and Keenan. Thank you so much for this amazing podcast and sharing all your thoughts, knowledge, and your experience. This podcast has been such a great escape for me from my daily pazoozed life. Wow. As it has been for us, Daniel.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to miss having new episodes to hear, but I am happy that I have the podcast to add to my rotation of the movie, book, and audiobook. We're going to be, we're like in that lineup.
Wow, that's such high praise.
Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah, to enjoy on a daily basis. You guys had such great insights, great opinions, and points of view that I had not thought of or noticed before, which made this podcast so much better.
Oh.
Thank you for all your time and efforts that you put into this show. I can't even imagine how much work went into it. I also want to thank your guests
Hmm.
that also added to the amazingness of the show. Oh,
Oh, that's really nice.
yeah. Although this is the end of the Exorcist Minute, it will forever live in my heart and my podcasts. Thank you guys, and I look forward to your next podcast endeavors. Oh,
Oh, that's so nice. He's one of the sweetest people
yeah.
we've met on this journey here.
Yeah. I want all of our Disney villain fans
Hmm.
and all of our Everything Everywhere fans and all of our History of the Devil fans
Hmm.
to be just like this.
Hmm.
Like I'll be happy, right? I'm a little scared of our Disney fans.
They know things. They just know so
Yeah.
much about them Disneys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
Oh,
right, and we have a message from John, who our friend who's written us
yeah.
before, and we have a lot of messages from John that would be useful when we get back to our devil episodes.
Yes.
John used to teach religion and knows a whole lot of stuff, and has been really helpful there.
Yeah. And John, if you want to take any of these emails and post them into our listener group, it'd be great to have a conversation in there. But for today, I want to pick this one.
Mm.
This is he has a comment about the tape recorder in minute 90, I believe.
Yeah, our favorite gigantic 70s tech, right?
Yeah, it's just all that clickety clackness. I
Yeah,
love
love
it.
it.
Right. So he says, the language lab. Du lernst Deutsch? Ich habe Deutsch gelernt. Yeah. So he says, talk to older language teachers.
Hmm.
In the 70s, the language lab was the way of the future.
Mm.
You would hear phrases and you would answer. I think he's talking about the students, right?
Uh-huh.
And your answers were recorded in the reel to reel. So that big. So we're now we're not talking about like the big clunky thing.
Hmm.
Oh no, wait, no, we are. We're talking about
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah. And then he says the reel to reels were problematic. I can imagine. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. And they eventually became obsolete.
I
Yeah.
hadn't thought of that as we're looking at the language lab, that it's also there for you as the student to speak into, to be judged on this reel to reel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, your voice is forever in that magnetic tape,
Hmm.
just to be poked and prodded and criticized by the language teachers. Right.
Well, how is it different? You used to teach ESL over in Westwood, right?
Yeah. And over in way
Mm.
Westwood in Japan.
Oh, of course.
It's like it's so west that going all the way around. Yeah. But yeah, in Japan and Hong Kong as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, right.
But yeah, like depending on where I was, it was taught a little bit different.
Hmm.
Like different teaching styles as to like how much of the native language you are. Expected to
Hmm.
know and to speak in the classroom versus the target language that you're teaching.
Right.
And actually, yeah, when I did get trained and got my like official certificate as a language teacher,
Hmm.
one of the things that they did tell us is uh, it's best to try to avoid the native language as much as possible.
Mm.
And only speak in the target language,
Okay.
which was different from how I had been doing it in the other countries.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's like it's like different styles, like all over the place. And I can't say like what's better or worse, but
Right.
our teacher. Who was giving us that course, he had us tell him all of the languages that we spoke on the first day, and he wrote them all down
Hmm.
because his plan was to teach us a language in a language that we had never spoken.
Uh-huh. Right.
So the very next day, he comes in and he's speaking Dutch, and he teaches us Dutch in Dutch.
Hmm.
And it's to prove that like you can learn with with just a couple of gestures and with a couple of like universal things, right?
Hmm.
And actually, I'm going to be doing that next week,
Oh.
folks. So yeah, I currently teach Japanese and German
Hmm.
here in Los Angeles, and as part of next week's upcoming language department meeting, I'm going to be kind of doing some peer training, and I am going to teach them how to speak German in German. I'm not going to speak any English at all.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I'm just going to, and I'm going to, well, I don't consider it cheating, but I'm going to have like a little PowerPoint and I'm going to say, hello, right? And it's going to be a picture of me waving, right? And I'm going to wait for them. They're going to say, hello, right? I hope, right? I'm planning, right? And I'm going to say, ich heiße Lester, right? Und wie heißen Sie, right? And they're going to figure it out eventually, right? And then I'm going to say, ich komme aus Las Vegas, aber ich wohne in Los Angeles, right? And they're going to have to figure, it's like, oh, yeah. And then they're going to say, ich komme aus, aber ich wohne in blah, 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 right? So, and these are, like, I can't do subtitles on a podcast, but listeners, I'm sure it's like, I come from here, but I live here, right? My name is Lester, right? Or I am called Lester, yeah. So, like you can do that. And what we found is that, the whole rule, like show, don't tell, right?
Right.
Like with language, we have like another level to it where it's like, if the learner figures it out by themselves, then they're probably going to remember it even more, right? So without even like winking that at them at all, you just like they figure it's like, oh, ich wohne in means I live in, right? They figure it out. I don't tell them. I don't do anything, and now it's like you feel good, like you conquered that, and you're not going to forget it as easy.
Oh, that's interesting. And it's not isolated like in this lab where Demi has to be all alone just to listen to the thing and, and be a little prisoner and looking at himself in these infinite mirror images of himself.
Right. But if you decide to stay late and you play my tape backwards, you will hear, I'm loving it. There you go, folks. Yeah. Right. So, but yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you for taking me down language memory lane. And yeah, I love hearing from a fellow linguophile. Yeah. All right, folks. And we're going to close it out with some questions and comments from our good friend Andy Nelson, who has welcomed us into the True Story Network. He has sent a couple of things to us over Discord, which we are, both of us are just old men still trying to figure out this new technology. We had a brief moment of panic. We thought we lost it, and then we found it again.
Yeah.
Right?
My students teach me how to use Discord, but they teach me by using Discord. They're like, it's Discord immersion, and doesn't work on me.
See, that's the whole new. See, I'm a language teacher. I should know this. Yeah. But yeah, let's look at what he got. So he says, outside of the Exorcist universe, what are your other favorite cinematic exorcists, exorcisms, and depictions of demons, and why?
I don't know if I have an answer for that, so you should go first.
Yeah, I don't know. God. Geez. Okay, so did he say just cinema or?
Yeah, cinematic. Well, we both do like this sort of a spoiler, Hereditary, which is about demonology. At the very least, you leave that there. That is that's a really interesting version of demonology, and I don't know if I even want to say much more than that. But
yeah. But Hereditary, check it out, folks. I think I'm more on the kind of like spooky side, kind of like quirky, schmaltzy side. I think Exorcist is the heaviest demon thing that I like. And I think after that, Reverend Henry Kane in Poltergeist 2, I can't get enough of that guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he does a really, really good job.
Yeah, and I like when the demons become friends, like in the Beetlejuice Saturday morning cartoon series.
Okay, I got to redact my statement. Like Beetlejuice, 100 times over. Beetlejuice. Well, Speaking of which, that movie's coming out. So,
that's right.
Gotta see it. Yeah, perfect timing. Yeah. So I think that's my BJ is my answer. It's always my answer. His next. Do you want to read the next question?
Let's see. What makes a good cinematic depiction of a demon? Do you prefer it as a possessed person or a big creature walking around like in Constantine or Spawn?
Ooh, because like you think demon movie and it's usually like possessed, like little boy, possessed little girl, possessed this, possessed. But like, what about the ones where he's just like his own self
Mhm.
walking around, or her own
Yeah,
self.
I do like
Right?
that clown character in Spawn. That's John Leguizamo. Great performance.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I think of like an actual devil walking around,
Mhm,
I of course think of Tim Curry
mhm.
as the Lord of Darkness in
Uh-huh.
Legend.
Yeah, that's a good
Yes.
point. But yeah, I think for a movie, I think what makes it scary is that it becomes a person who looks like a regular person. I'm not afraid of running into the Lord of Darkness, in a
Hmm.
back alleyway or something, or
Yeah.
or the clown demon from Spawn. So yeah, I think that's what makes it so scary. It's sort of a pod person movie, an Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie, right? It was like they look
Right.
like anybody. They look like people you love.
Yeah. They've hijacked your best friend, or your lover, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the scare angle, right?
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, if I ran to Tim Curry, like, you know, shirtless with horns in a back alley, he was like, "Hello," and I'd be like, "Hello." Yeah, it's that meme. Oh yeah, we put it in the
Mhm,
listener group. It's like, the angel, and he's like, "Be not afraid,"
mhm,
right? And it's the character in the comic is just kind of like, "Meow,"
mhm.
and it cuts back to the angel, and he's like, "Be more afraid."
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with Tim Curry, right? Um, yeah.
Let's skip the ninth configuration. We've talked about
Yeah,
that.
we're going to talk about
Okay.
the Ninth Configuration.
Okay.
He says, while this is often considered the scariest movie ever made,
Hmm.
taking this off the table, what do you think is the scariest movie ever made, and why? What is it that creates genuine scares for you? Uh,
Well, my first guess is Alien, which is just about my favorite horror movie.
mm-hmm.
It just people try to do their jobs in this and this thing, and it's so unknowable, right? It's so alien to beat that dead horse. It's so foreign
Yeah,
to them. There's no way for them to predict, and they don't have like in some of the rip-offs of Alien, like the computer scans it and tells them, "Oh, this is how you
right.
defeat it," or any of that, and they're completely lost, and it's changing all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to sound like a broken record.
Hmm.
So what else is new, Lester?
Uh
But no, I got to go back to Hereditary, just
huh.
because of the way that it it tricks you. It's like, this is gonna be a scary horror. No, it's actually about grief.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I'm like, I don't like that. I really don't like that. It's like, this is the kind of thing that, you just like feel so uncomfortable, and it's like, I
Mm,
don't want to think about any of this, right?
right.
But I will say, the first and maybe only horror movie that I ever, like, covered my eyes the first time I saw it. You know how, like, people in cartoons do, and
Hmm.
nobody in real life actually does.
Right.
Was The Shining.
Uh-huh. Right.
And it was the lady in the tub, and she comes out and she's laughing, and she's doing that. I couldn't cover my eyes and my ears at the same time, but that
You
laugh,
had
like,
to pick.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh God, yeah.
Well, just some quick ones then. The only time I've screamed at a movie
Uh,
is the ending of Carrie, which is so
oh,
after the prom and the stuff that you might know. There's more stuff
right.
after that totally caught me off guard.
Mm.
I screamed out loud. I was in my parents' room watching it while it was just the kids at home. Screamed out loud, and then after the movie was done, I came out to the living room. My brother and sister were just sort of looking like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I was watching a movie, and it made me scream out loud." um, and then you know what? Probably the scariest movie I have ever seen, really, because I will go
Mm.
back and watch Alien over and
Yeah,
over and over again, even though it's terrifying.
yeah.
Um, is this Paul W.S. Anderson movie
Oh,
called Event Horizon? Do you know that one with
oh,
Sam
yes, yes,
Neill and
yes.
Jolie Richardson?
Uh-huh.
Just really well acted, really well made. And that is about, yeah, it's Lovecraftian. And it's like horrors beyond your imagination.
Yeah.
And that one I was watching not at a sleepover necessarily, but like with a bunch of my high school friends, and like that we actually were like cuddling in fear
Hmm, hmm.
on the couch, like, oh my god, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, this is an interesting question.
Hmm.
So he says, while infrequent, there have been a few directors over the last few decades who have played with their films and released black and white versions to
Hmm.
create a different tone and mood.
Hmm.
I know many people aren't fans of this concept, possibly even you two. Hey, hey, who are you to assume what we like and what we no. But but how do you think a black and white version of this would play? So he's talking about The
Yeah,
Exorcist.
that's interesting. I don't like different versions just because I don't want to, and I know we did a whole Exorcist podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like having to try to sort through and fuck around and figure out like which is the one, because then it's like, oh, which I saw this movie, I didn't think it was very good. Which version did you see? Oh, I
Right.
saw
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
version. So I'm not a big fan of that. So I
Mm,
haven't looked at any of those black and white versions of like the Chrome version of Mad
right.
Max Fury Road. So I'm not sure, but that's super interesting.
Oh, so he's talking about okay. So he's talking about black and white versions of movies that still exist in color.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, I thought he was talking as like like for Young Frankenstein that was the perfect choice.
Oh no, it's like Mad Max Fury Road. The Mist has
Oh,
one that sort of like makes it look more like a like Frankenstein or Dracula from the 30s,
right.
right? Let's see what else. Logan had one.
Okay.
Parasite had one. Justice League had
Mm,
one. Yeah, so I haven't seen any of those, but I think it's interesting to think about. Yeah, like what if they tried to make this look like a quote unquote classic horror movie
right.
in this period where they do that occasionally in the 70s and 80s, like the Elephant Man is black and
Right.
white specifically because it's trying to like make you think of this person as a traditional monster and then go, wait a minute,
Right.
he's not a monster, he's a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would do a disservice to this movie just
Hmm.
because like the classics are classics because they broke new ground,
Hmm.
right? They broke the mold. And I think if The Exorcist had tried to remind us of, those once upon a time days when movies were in, black and white, I think
Hmm.
it would be I think it would be mm, hurting the message,
Yeah, I was trying to
Mm.
see if I could black and whiteify my MP4 of it real quick while we were
Hmm.
talking, but I don't think we have time to. But
Yeah.
I might try to take a look at that and see if
Yeah.
I can put this into black and white and just take a look because
See what it's like.
because I think color is important in some points of a movie, but sometimes you can get that with contrast with brightness. So
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder. That's a really great question.
Oh, you know what? You know what you do, Keenan.
Hmm.
Right? You have all of Act One being
Hmm.
black and white, and then just like when Dorothy opens the door,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right? When Karis opens the bedroom door for the first time, and you just see a little peek of blue and vomit
Hmm.
green, and
Hmm.
yeah. See, and that'll and everyone will just like in the theaters and Wizard of Oz, people go right, but then in our movie they'll go
Well, great question, Andy.
yeah.
I am rendering a black and white version of this Exorcist MP4 as we speak.
Oh, well, there we go. So we'll have a definitive answer out to you by next week. He also asks, he says, like many child actors, Linda Blair struggled to make a career for herself
Right.
and to break out of the horror genre. What do you think of her as an actress?
Hmm.
I know it's a bit unfair to judge child actors, but from what you've seen of her, does she have the strengths to have had a stronger and better career? Definitely. I think we've seen like just the stuff that we have seen as Reagan McNeil
Hmm.
shows that she's been like this movie has proven that she can play with the big boys, right? Like
Yeah.
she's playing opposite Ellen Burstyn, opposite Max von Sydow. She could have, handled it, I think.
In addition to that, though, she is playing a complicated child to begin with, a
Yes.
child who is dealing with real emotional issues,
Hmm.
and then she is going to play adults. So
She
she
yeah.
she is doing all of those, and people, yeah, you just forget that this is a little girl who's playing this grown up character and thinking all of these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's playing the grown up rapist demon inside of herself, right?
Right.
Like she's doing all of that, and yeah, I think she could have done that with the right material. I think that's the
Hmm.
problem, is that it wasn't on her end necessarily. There was not material for her, right?
Right. Yeah. It's just.
So
Mm.
thinking about Ellen Burstyn's co-star in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, right?
Right.
That's a movie
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
her and her little son, and then the son makes friends with Jodie Foster's character,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Jodie Foster gets to be Jodie Foster.
Mhm.
Maybe she's a stronger actor than Linda Blair, etc. Like, she's Jodie Foster. She's one of the
Mhm.
best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, she gets a chance at this incredibly crazy role in Taxi Driver,
All right.
but by the same director as Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Martin Scorsese, right?
Mhm.
That there's only like one, and that's only one great role at a time for a child actor, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, in her age range, I mean, that happens a lot. Is like, with young actors at this time period, like women who are middle aged or elderly, it's like one at a time. There's one role for a woman in this age range per year, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And oh man, and I think we talked about it, like to land this role. This
Mhm.
is it sounds really kind of cliche, but it is the role of a lifetime for better and worse,
Right.
right? Because it's 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 a role that kind of pigeonholes her, right?
Right.
And traps her and keeps her from going on and doing other stuff because everyone just remembers her as this.
hmm
But if you had to pick one role to be like, pigeonholed into,
hmm
like this is a pretty good one,
Yeah,
right?
and she
Like,
seems to have come to terms with that part, that this is what she'll be known for, and she's embracing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about her, in our next episode as we look
Yeah.
at The Heretic.
Yeah. Exorcist 2. Yeah. So yeah, we got a couple others. Let's see. Andy asks, what is the most iconic shot from this film? There
Hmm.
are a number of possibilities for me. Ooh.
Hmm. There is the poster shot, which I think we've talked about in depth here.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I think, okay, like Exorcist,
Mm-hmm.
my shot in my mind doesn't have Reagan in it, or Pazuzu in it.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
Chris up in the attic responding to that flame.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that that is it. Like, that is a terrifying idea. Like, you're a woman alone in the attic, and these
Mm-hmm.
supernatural things are happening to you, and just, maybe that's also on our predilections, as we're so impressed by performance, right, you and I,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
like, just Ellen Burstyn's reaction there before any of that stuff has happened. Like, that's what I think of when I think of like the vibe of The Exorcist.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I guess it's my turn to be inelegant here. But now, yeah, the stuff between Dimmy and Reagan
hmm
slash Howdy, right? Why you do this to me, right?
mm,
You're not my mother, all that stuff, right?
right.
I love that. But as far as shots, like, I mean, I've pointed them out. God, I wish I could remember them now. But like,
hmm
all those every frame of painting, the shot looking up. Uh, uh, from downstairs as Chris is holding out the crucifix to
Yep.
Carl and
hmm
says like, "Did you yeah, anything with those stairs,
Yeah.
and the way that characters are positioned on those stairs inside the house."
Yeah, I would also think
Mm.
about that shot, that our friend Ian Hinden mentioned, looks like a two-person fighter shot at the beginning in the Iraq sequence, where it's,
That was going to be my choice,
oh
like
yeah,
the
Pazuzu
standoff between.
versus, yeah, Mara,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'll say that one is my favorite. I
Oh
really
yeah.
like that one.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And yeah, I think, okay, one more question. He says, does it do the book an injustice that they never make it more explicit in the film that it's not the devil possessing Reagan, but a demon?
hmm
Should that have been more clear? Growing up, I always thought it was the devil. I'm not sure I even realized until your show.
Oh, that's really nice of
Yeah,
Andy.
thank
Yeah,
you.
and Andy
Yeah.
is an expert on films. That's super cool.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, well, yeah, but that's the thing, right?
hmm
Like it, for all intents and purposes, it is the devil in the movie
Right.
because he says, "And I'm the devil," and he never walks it back,
Right.
right? Yeah, you'd only know that it's not the devil by reading the book, and
Or
eh,
going back and looking and thinking of this Pazuzu imagery, which we have at the beginning, and then we have the
right.
flash of the statue, and all of that.
Yeah, but again, even like Pazuzu was as obscure to us in the 1970s
hmm
as Dracula was when Bram Stoker was writing Dracula, right? I
Right.
think I mentioned that on the show. Like,
Yeah.
like Stoker was like reading this really badly written and inaccurate history of Romania,
hmm
and there was just like this footnote about this obscure ruler named Vlad Dracula,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, Dracula means devil, and he's like, all right, I'll take this. Like nobody's ever gonna know who this
Right.
guy
Mhm, mhm,
was.
mhm.
Nobody's ever gonna look him up, right?
Right.
And then spoiler now, it has become a victim of its own success, right? Now
Mhm.
everybody knows Dracula is synonymous with vampire, and I
Right.
think now we see that statue of Pazuzu, we see the amulet of Pazuzu, and we're like, oh yeah, Pazuzu, right?
Mhm.
And we've kind of like conflated them in our minds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pazuzu is Captain Howdy, is the devil, is all of them, right?
Yeah, I think answering that question is important to us, and certainly to fans. The entire fandom of The Exorcist
Hmm.
is really interested in that question.
Yeah.
I don't think that question really comes up if you're watching the movie, the correct way,
Uh-huh,
in
uh-huh.
order, all at once,
Right.
where you're just being swept along with like this horrible thing that's happening to this family, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it feels like the devil, and that's all that's important. Like it feels
Right.
like the ultimate evil, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
This is what this is.
Yeah. And I personally, I don't think you have the impact that this movie
Mhm.
had if it's stated that it's not the devil,
Right. Hmm.
right? Where people are like lined up around the block and
Right.
they're fainting, and they're like buses filled with Catholic school
Hmm.
students coming in and buying tickets and everything like
Hmm.
that. I don't think you have that if we more explicitly state, oh no, it's not the devil,
Hmm.
right? I think the draw is that this is Father Marin
Uh-huh.
and Father Karras against the devil,
Right. Hmm.
right? Yeah.
And not if it's Legion, even.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think it's got to be like that. That's the like it is the advertising of this film,
Right.
right? The devil went down to Georgetown, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
those are really great questions, which
yeah,
makes sense from our brilliant friend and guest Andy Nelson
yeah,
of True
right.
Story FM.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's a good place to end. And yeah, folks, if you missed this one, feel free to shoot us another email. We will be around until the very last minute, minute 132. So if you have something to say about Exorcist 2, we'll be talking about that in the next episode, or Exorcist 3, or the prequels, or the TV show, right? Or you got something else to say. Yeah, feel free. We're going to be here until the last minute.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, for now, that is all of my notes. Keenan, is there anything else?
No, I think we got it.
All right, folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can reach me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz. You can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram at Howdy Keenan.
Yeah, we got our listener group, Compelling Conversations. Go check that out and request to join, and we'll let you in here with us. Thank you so much to everyone who has shared the show by word of mouth or on social media. And a big thank you to everyone who has given us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. We really appreciate it. That's going to help our little podcast grow and find more cool people like you. And truly, listeners, from the bottom of our hearts, we are so grateful to have you guys as listeners. It has really been such a treat to interact with you and to be doing this show for you. So thank you guys for listening. Okay, Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time,
The power of our listeners compels
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Well, that's
Yeah,
nice.
if this came out in the 1950s, what would fucking what is his name?
Edward G. Robinson.
Edward G. Robinson have to say about The Exorcist and about our podcast. See?
Saying, what the hell's a podcast?
Yeah.
Like a radio.
That isn't funny.
Yeah. Where's Jack Benny on this thing?
Yeah. These guys talking about who's on first, and all that stuff. It's like they're totally stealing Abbott and Costello's stuff, and who are still alive and performing.